This is Ben Brode, game designer on Hearthstone, and you're listening to the Epic Podcast.
This is the beginning and the end.
You're listening to the Epic Podcast Show with your hosts, Lignar, Walmardian.
She told me to tie her up and do whatever I wanted to her. So I took a stereo.
And Medicakes.
Do you think the expansion will make me fat?
Enough of this palaver. Let's get the show on the road.
Howdy, folks. You're listening to Epic Podcast for the WoW community. I kind of waited there to see if Medi was going to freak out and jump in and do the intro. So,
nope.
I'm Lignar. With me is Medi, and playing the part of Joe, aka Walmardian, tonight, we have a guest. Joe can be here again this week, and we have a guest, Quori, who is, if you listen to Azeroth Pirate Radio, you're probably going to recognize his voice. How you doing, Quori?
I'm good. Clearly, you guys just downgraded the position.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say that. So anyway, I guess we can just jump right into it because we got a few news items, but we do have one like big topic we want to talk about, which we haven't done in a while on the show. What have you been going on? What have you guys been doing in gaming? I'll go ahead and start it off. I've actually played more WoW in the past 3 days, I think, than I have in the past 2 weeks. I'm Valor capped already this week on my priest.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What's Valor capping?
Right? Yeah, I haven't even tried for a while, and then when they increased, what we could upgrade our items and stuff, I'm like, well, all right, I suppose I gotta do that. So, pretty much given up on Hearthstone, and I think, Quori, you said something on Twitter today when I was like, I'm just done. I don't know if it was you or not, but well, I know you said something about you were frustrated with bad draws and RNG. Yeah,
I am. I'm just frustrated with the losing streaks I get.
And see, for me, it's not so much that. Like, I suck at golf, but I'll still go golf, right? So I know I suck at Hearthstone. It's just not as much fun for me anymore as it used to be. Like, I'll still play with friends if somebody's like, hey, you want to play some Hearthstone? Sure, yeah, I'll play against people. But to just go sit there and play Hearthstone for an hour, I can't do it anymore. It's just not fun anymore. Been playing some Heroes, digging Heroes still, and played a little bit Diablo today too. So I'm trying to keep Diablo fresh for me, not overdo it, but still get in and play some more of it. But
and overdo it like I did.
Yeah, don't burn myself out like Medi did trying to push to 70. So, but anyway, Quori, what have you been up to? I know you just finished a raid right before you joined us here. So actually, you joined us before you finished the raid, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't finish. I left early.
Aw.
That's all right. They had another DPS, and there's not really any gear I need in Siege anymore. I was actually really, really sick for last week. Both my youngest son and I were both very, very ill. And so I didn't play any WoW, and I pretty much didn't log into my computer. Like, I didn't come even sit at my desk all week long at all. So the only thing I did play was, ironically enough, Hearthstone, because I could play it on my iPad.
Right.
So, to your point, like, I have been kind of frustrated with Hearthstone from day one. That is to say, in beta, a year ago when I got into it, because of that very issue with the streakiness, where the same deck, whatever your deck is for whatever class you're playing, say you're playing Hunter, and you've got some low cost deck, you'll win 6-7 matches in a row, and they're not all destroying people wins. Some of them are close call wins. You get a little lucky, that sort of thing. But point is, you win 6 or 7 matches in a row, and then suddenly that same exact deck, you can't even be in a match. You just lose horribly 6 or 7 times in a row. And my point has always been, that's not the deck. The deck isn't the problem, because there's no way you can win 6 or 7 times in a row and then lose 6 or 7 times in a row and it be the player's fault. That's clearly just RNG. And that means the RNG is that bad. It's kind of like I attribute it to raiding, like losing the random roll, like the 1 through 100 roll, like all night long. You're always rolling against people. You're always losing all night long. It's just the odds aren't possible. The odds are in your favor that eventually you're gonna it's going to even itself out, and it just never seems to with Hearthstone. I always have these massive streaks where I win a ton of matches, then I lose a ton of matches, which is, I agree with you, that makes it unfun to play. So, but that's all I kind of had available, having just my iPhone and my iPad, when I was lying in bed.
Yeah, I know.
Shaking uncontrollably. So in that regard, Hearthstone's phenomenal. The only other thing new for me, gaming-wise, was yesterday when I logged into my computer for the first time. Lo and behold, the little icon for Heroes of the Storm was there. So I was quite happy to jump in and go through the first tutorial for Heroes of the Storm. It's my first time playing a MOBA game, and it was fun. I liked it because I liked playing James Rayner. So
yeah, wait till you get some of the other heroes. It's I'm a big fan of Nova. So
I'm a StarCraft fan, so I can see how I love both of those characters. The more sci-fi you put in my fantasy games, the happier I am.
Oh, for sure. So we'll have to hook up and play some heroes sometime, man.
Yeah, now that I have it.
Right. So Maddie, how about you? What have you been doing the past week since we talked last on the show?
Well, like you, with the whole extra upgrades to your gear and the timeless coin thing, I've been trying to get Valor capped, which I haven't really had to worry about it on Spexiden, which is my main rating scheme. But I figured my spell ride couldn't hurt. Other than that, not much. And we'll pretty much get into that later.
Yeah, we definitely will.
I mean, I really...
You need to unburn out from Diablo is what you need to do.
I know, but it's just like I've gotten into this kick to where I really want to work on my jewelry, and it's just my life has been filled with WoW and podcasting and Blizzard games, and I pushed things aside, and now that lull is happening, and it's like I want to do other things.
Right.
So like I said, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, like I said at the top of the show, we got a couple news items to talk about. The first one was, it just came out today, right? The Garrison. It's not an art craft. The Garrison preview came out. And honestly, there was a lot of information in there if you actually read it. There's a lot of information in there about garrisons that we didn't already know. And I've always been the type when people... Before we knew about garrisons and people were like, we want housing. I was like, housing's a waste of time. It doesn't add anything to the game for actual gameplay, which is what Blizzard, I agreed with Blizzard's, I guess you could say I towed the party line there. But garrisons seem to be attempting to do that anyway. We don't know if they're actually going to succeed. And when I first heard about garrisons, I was like, shit, and player housing, whatever. And then they told us about garrisons and what they were going to be able to do. And I thought, okay, that's cool. I'll at least look at it and see how it goes. And then we heard a little bit more, and very little bit, mainly on Artcraft. But in this, they talked about how we're going to have like an outpost in each of the zones, and that's going to be a mage tower or a blacksmith or whatever. And then we can also have that building or its alternate back in our garrison. And I'm not saying I'm really looking forward to garrisons in and of themselves, but I'm really looking forward to how it's going to kind of intertwine with the gameplay. I'm curious. I guess I'm more curious of how that's all going to work.
Well, I mean, and they go in and they say that basically you have a choice.
Right.
You're going to come up against a choice, and whatever choice you choose, it's going to have different types of buildings to add to your garrison. Each of the choices will have an impact on your leveling experience, influencing quests you'll have available, and some specific benefits you'll unlock. So I'd like that. I really do like this idea.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Corey.
I was just say the whole thing feels a little like, one of our guildmates, Jim, said, "I'm going to get more WoW inside my WoW." Right? It feels a bit Minecraft inside my WoW, where I get to build this little world in this town and then have it run while I'm not necessarily there. Does that intrigue me? Does that make me want to sit down in front of the computer and play WoW more? No, absolutely not. Because for me, the whole point of playing WoW is the social interaction with other human beings. It's not just a solo video game. If I wanted to play a solo video game, I can do that on my iPhone or my iPad or an Xbox, something like that. The whole point of playing WoW to me is to interact with other people. Now, all that said, the thing that does intrigue me about garrisons, or the thing that would help someone like me, is I can turn around and have a garrison, and it gives me the ability to do week-long quests. So I don't have to log in to do dailies. I can have my garrison and the NPCs within my garrison, my followers and recruits, do all of that questing for me. So that after a week or a day or 3 days, or whatever the time frame is, I can log in, because I only log into WoW 2 to 3 times a week for a few hours each time. I can log in, grab up all those justice points or valor points or resources or whatever it is I've had them do, so I don't feel the need to, in real life, do it every single day. That, to me, is the benefit for garrisons, as the way I see them currently.
Yeah, and they actually addressed that about they're very aware of the risk of putting something like this in the game and it ending up feeling like a chore. And they're trying to avoid that. They actually said that. And I got a feeling, at least when we first get this, in beta, when it gets its gets its first round of testing with more than just the internal Blizzard employees, I got a feeling there's a lot of people that are going to make it feel like a chore. And hopefully people test the crap out of this in beta, because it's a completely new thing for Blizzard to be doing. And like I said, I'm not excited for the feature to be there. I'm excited that maybe it'll get the people who were clamoring for housing to maybe it'll satisfy them. I'm more interested to see, like, how is it going to change? Basically, how's it going to change the leveling experience? The leveling experience has really been unchanged from the beginning. It's you go quest or you go do dungeons. It's like that's really not any different than it ever has been. And okay, so they brought phasing in, which has kind of changed some things, the way it works. But it's still fundamentally not changed, and this seems like it's going to fundamentally change the leveling experience, and I'm excited to see what it does. And I admit it could go bad. The actual end game purpose of it, I'm not sure I'm excited about it. I'm not sure I like the idea of having that potential thing there where, kind of like you were saying, where I feel like I kind of have to log in, or I'm going to miss something, or I'm not going to be getting the best out of it, or you know what I mean? It's just I don't want that.
Well, therein lies the rub, right? They have things that they can do and things that they definitely can't do. They can't make it that it's something that gives any one group of players a competitive or distinct advantage over another group of players. They won't do that, because then you're turning around and making it a requirement for some players to place on other players. So they're always gonna try to make sure that's not the that doesn't happen. That's not an end result. The other part of it is that it's making it another part of the game that's a chore. And they don't want to make it that, because we've already complained that too many things are chores within the game. And they realize it. I think they're realizing now that their player base is much older today than it was at one point. I think they're realizing that when they look at their numbers, again, it's just a supposition on my part to what their data probably shows them, but I'm willing to bet they're looking at their data, they're seeing the number go down and up and down and up, and what they're realizing is that their player base, they're not gaining as many younger players as they originally thought they would. Their player base is just actually aging.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a safe thing to
So
say.
as a result, they know there are people who are 30-somethings and 40-somethings. In my case, I'm the 40-something. I've got 3 kids. I've got 3 soccer teams. We've got basketball to get to. We've got jobs, my job, my wife's job. We've got school. We've got careers. All these things. WoW becomes a smaller and shrinking portion of my actual time, spent sitting in front of my computer. So I think that's what they're realizing, that we don't want to make it a chore and we can't make it something that's competitive advantage, but they don't want to put it in there and have it be something that people just ignore.
Right. But yeah, and that actually, the chore topic might actually kind of feed the bigger topic we wanted to talk about. But I'm ready to move on to the next stuff, unless you guys had more to talk about garrisons.
Nope, I'm good.
All right, you want to take it, or you want me to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We also got some data mined, so leave it. Take that with the biggest grain of salt you can. It's a data mine from an alpha, but they data mine some of the challenge mode items that you can get. Mainly, it looks like weapons and there's one shield. It looks like, but the rest of them seem to be main hand weapons. I'm sorry, 2 shields. The rest of them seem to be either staves or main hand weapons, and they also were able to data mine some of the tier sets, which we talked a little bit about in the pre-show. I don't really care. I don't run challenge modes.
I'm sorry, I have to intervene.
Okay.
I loved the Paladin challenge mode set, but I just never really. I know that we started out trying to get a team together, and then we failed horribly.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And I've always wanted that set, and I don't know. I just never had the time, or I didn't really have the desire to. But looking at these weapons and that shield, oh my god, the animation and just the way that these things change and move, these are awesome looking. It makes me want to run challenge modes now. This is the excitement that I kind of want, but then, and like I said, this is all going to tie into our main topic, but it's like, even though this looks badass and I want to get this stuff, how many times am I going to run challenge mode afterwards?
Right.
During the next lull that's going to happen after Warlords, so it's just, that shield.
Which shield? Are you talking about the big one that looks like the face?
No, when you start to play the video.
Okay, because there's 2 shields. I didn't know if you meant that one, because that's the one I like. You're talking about the one that's a circle and it kind of...
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, the animation on these items is really cool, but I don't know... I never have been the player, because for me, these items, challenge mode rewards are the look how good I am at this game thing, right? You put it on, it's cosmetic, it's not, and you put it on basically so you can stand in the middle of Stormwind or Orgrimmar and be like, look at me, I'm a badass. And I have never been that player. I don't care. I don't care what other people think of my accomplishments in game. I don't really, I'm kind of, in some ways, I look up to the folks in Blood Legion and those guilds, because it's amazing what these people are capable of doing. But I'm never going to run across them in game and be like, oh, wow. Be like, oh, cool, he's a really good raider. All right, next. That's my reaction. So these items, they're cool looking, but I don't care, if that makes sense. And for me, the tier gear, I transmog out of my tier gear anyway. I went to tier gear for the stats. I don't care what it looks like. So, Corey, what did you do? Do you run any challenge modes at all, or?
I don't. And mainly, how much gear can you have?
Right.
So, my raiding gear is obviously the best gear I can physically have. And then when it comes to transmogging, I tend to transmog into Vanilla or Burning Crusade tier sets. I'm an old school hunter. I've been playing since day 1 in Vanilla. So, my favorite sets are, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Tier 2.5, things like that. That tends to be what I wanna walk around wearing.
Yeah, I just recently transmogged out of tier 1 priest on my priest. It just didn't look right on a panda.
I guess here's the thing. So I'm gonna side with Medi in the sense that the weapons and things that have been data mined, the animations and stuff on some of these weapons, or that shield and stuff. This goes beyond what we've seen.
Oh yeah.
Some of this stuff do before, so that does kind of add an extra coolness factor to a lot of them. Honestly, again, I'm gonna say, if I only have 2 days of, maybe 3 days of playing time of 3 hours, I only have so much I can do.
Right.
So if I spend some time doing some raiding with my guildmates, and maybe I get a little bit of extra time into, maybe that 3rd day is when I go do some farming and some, maybe I run a couple of scenarios and stuff. How much time do I have to put to doing challenge modes?
Right. No, it's, I totally totally know what you're getting at there, because I wouldn't mind running challenge modes, but I'm like, it requires a completely different approach to any other PvE content we have. I mean, you have to have your invis potions to get by the trash so you can get the run done faster, and that kind of stuff. So I just don't really have the desire. Maybe that'll change. I doubt it, but I think a lot of, well, like Quori, you're in a different situation where you kind of have you got real life demands that are kind of pulling you away, that you don't have the time to play. For Medi and I anyway, it's a different situation. We've talked about this, and this is like our main topic that we were going to talk about tonight, which we haven't done on the show probably in a year, I'm guessing. But we were talking about this last night a little bit, or yesterday afternoon, and it's obvious that the community is burned out. And I don't think it's so much that they want new content. I think they're just tired of the stuff we got. I mean, sure, they want new content, but I don't think it's, you can't have one without the other, really, I know. But I don't think it's so much that they're just hungry for new content. I think they're just bored with what we got, and that's why they want new content. So I know, Medi, you have, I guess, more to say on this than I do, so I'm just going to let you go.
Oh, God. And I don't know, I just, over the past few, I want to say few, but it's been longer than just a handful of months. But I started to feel kind of a little bored and WoW, and I'm like, well, as long as I'm still raiding with my FERT team, I'm still getting that social interaction with friends and people that I totally adore, I'll be fine, right? And just as time went on, I only found myself logging in on Thursdays and Sundays, and occasionally Tuesdays to run raids, right? And it's just that this whole Valor cap and being able to upgrade 2 more levels, and Blizzard's like, well, here you could do this, isn't this awesome? And finally you could do something with all those coins. And the I want to say that the situation that happened on Tuesday night just kind of made me really ill to even think about WoW right now. And it just got me thinking that Blizzard has done a lot of too little, too late moments with us, and they've, and I don't even know where to start. It's like my brain is just so scrambled right now with what I want to convey. But it's just I'm sick. I'm bored to death, and I'm tired of Siege of Orgrimmar. And I really hate doing this to my FERT team, but it's just like, as soon as we kill Garrosh, if we, and hopefully can kill Garrosh, I think I'm done with WoW for a little bit. I'm not saying F this game, I'm done, but I do want to take a step back, because this has been a very frustrating expansion, especially towards the end. And it's been more frustrating and more in lull than the previous expansions, and I really don't know why that's happening for me personally. A lot of people are contributing this lull to, we had so much content being put out at a fast pace that they don't really have anything towards the end to give us.
I think that's part of it. Through the majority of the expansion until Siege of Orgrimmar came out, we had, patch 4.1 and then 4.3, and then we had these little story patches that gave us some content, and they came quick. And I think the player base got used to that, and then it all stopped when they started working on Warlords. Once Siege came out and the dev team pretty much was done and moved on to Warlords, I think the player base kind of got used to the pace of, more content faster that Blizzard's always promised. And I think that actually is turning out to backfire on Blizzard. I do. Mm-hmm. I believe.
And I know that I can't believe that they didn't really predict this happening, or have I'm going to say a backup plan. Apparently, Warlords is not all, I don't want to say finished, but it wasn't what I guess we expected. It wasn't complete as much as we suspected at Blizzard, at BlizzCon.
But
it's like, did they not have, like, Ruby
right?
Sanctum? Something like Ruby Sanctum.
Yeah, but they did that and they got blasted when they did it. So
they couldn't win.
Yeah, and I always point out, I will admittedly, I get in trouble with a lot of people, and people get mad at me for this, and I've been blocked and banned by people on Twitter, and I've gotten into arguments with people about it, and people have said you're an idiot, you're talking about numerous times. But I tend to side with Blizzard on a lot of stuff. Not because I think Blizzard are demigods and I'm a fanboy, but because I understand the issue they have, their business. They're a bunch of people who are artists trying to put out good art, but ultimately they are slave to a business model that is out to make money. And it's really difficult to fight, sacrificing your own integrity or personal integrity to say, well, I want to make sure that when we're ready to launch this content or push out this expansion or whatever it is that they're going to release, that it's up to their own personal standards, and it fits the criteria that they originally set out to design and develop and create, the world they decided to create for people, but also something that consumers are going to purchase, enjoy, and perpetuate the business model and make Blizzard money. It's a really difficult situation to be in. They tried that model before where they put out small pieces of content like Ruby Sanctum to try to appease people and tide people over. And the player base, for the most part, blasted them for it, or at least a portion of the player base. And then they turned around and they released content at a slower pace to make sure the right content was out, and a portion of the player base blasted them. And then they released content at a faster pace, and a portion of the player base blasted them for it. And the problem they have is that the portion of the player base that they hear is the loudest one decrying whatever egregious act Blizzard has created, done this time.
Right.
It's not always the same part of the player base. It just happens to be the loudest group at that moment. So ultimately, I look at it and I say, when I look again, I've been playing a hunter since day one, and I've been in endgame raiding guilds. One of the guilds I was in during Burning Crusade was like a top 200 or 150, whatever they were ranked in the world. And, I played alongside, some of the best players that I've ever seen play the game. And I've watched them walk away from the game because they're like, I'm just done. I'm done. I did what I wanted to do. I think ultimately you're always fighting the burnout we feel from our own interaction within the game. Mehdi, you said, I'm just kind of tired right now. Is the content that you're tired of, or is it the group of people you happen to be playing with? It's just there's that one person that rubs you the wrong way, or maybe it's the way the whole group runs things that rubs you the wrong way.
And no one, and I love that I had this friendship with Lick that I can say this, but it's like, in all the other expansions, I mean, it's always been us causing trouble and playing all the time, and it's like our lives have changed, and I guess that kind of dramatically changed how I personally viewed, and I can't speak for Lake, but it's how I play. It's like, I don't level with other people, and I always get into trouble with Lig, and it's like if I can't enjoy that, then it's like I don't really like to be on. And I know that's kind of puts him in a bad spot because it's not his fault, but it's like, there's just few people that I enjoy interacting with in this game. And I hate to say it that way because then people are going to be like, oh, you don't like me? No. But it's just, and like the FERT group, love them to death. But it's like, I'm tired of this content, this Siege of Orgrimmar, and it's like it's been out for how long, and we are still struggling to get Garrosh down, and we still have over 8-9 months left.
Well, we don't know for sure, but probably, yeah.
Yeah, rough. It's like once we do finally kill him, hopefully soon. What the hell am I gonna do?
Well,
I had people suggest, there's people that love going back into Mogush and Vaults, just to see it again. I'm like, been there, done that several times.
Sorry, I just did some math again. If it's 8 or 9 months, then Blizzard's missing the promise that they made to their shareholders.
By the end of the year.
Yeah. But you see what I'm saying?
6 months away, we're at the end of the year.
Right.
You know?
But it's like, this is all that I have, for the next several months, then I'm really sick to my stomach to think I'm going to last on WoW right now.
Like, to Corey's point, that's why I log into Raid, is because of the people. It's also why I don't run LFR. I ran LFR one time on my priest, and that was just to see all the cinematics and everything. I don't run LFR because I can only kill the fucking Klaxi so many times. I can only run spoil so many times before I don't want to see it again.
People are like, oh, well, go do old achievements. And, I'm like, well, I'm not really a big achievement runner or I don't level pets.
Okay,
I don't pet battle. So go into...
Right there. So right there, I'm going to challenge you. I will challenge you on this. I always point out to people, if you're feeling burnt out in the game, then of course I think the best thing to do is to probably walk away for a little while. Just stop playing for a bit, and then see if you're missing it, and if you're missing the people that you're playing alongside, and you want to go back and you get the itch and you go back and do it. But if you want to keep playing, but you're feeling burnt out on current content, what I always challenge people to do is get a group of people that you're friends with in the game, that you have a lot of fun with, and go back like 2 or 3 tiers previous and do all the content that way. Now, and I'm going to call him out on this. One of my guildmates, Jim, he's a great guy. He's my friend, and love him to bits and all. But Jim hates going back and doing old content. He does not care about doing achievements, doesn't want achievement points, none of it. But my challenge to people like him is, yes, but when you're constantly pushing forward in new content where you're slamming your head against the wall, or you're killing this guy for the 18th time and you've already got all the items from it, and most of the people have all the items from it, you're just looking for that one shield upgrade for your tank or something to that effect, it's not fun anymore. But if you go through and kind of play that God mode where you're totally out gearing some like Dragon Soul content, and you can easily go through and do it on heroic mode, or you can do it on normal mode and do the achievements pretty easily, and you see the yellow little things are going flying up on the screen, and everybody's getting the achievements done and stuff. And yes, achievement points, are like backsides. Everybody's got one, and it's kind of useless except to sit on, right? I get that. I get achievement points are useless, but if you do that, and you do that specifically with the thought process to say, we're going to have some drinks, and we're going to have some fun, and we're going to laugh, and we're going to reminisce, and we're going to talk and converse and make it social, I think you find the fun again in playing. And again, I don't think it's because of the content. I think it's because of the people.
I hear you, and I would love to accept that challenge, but it's like for me, it's like my friends and the people that I really enjoy playing with. I mean, our schedules are so varied.
Yeah, a lot of them are
I'm on the East Coast, yeah, and they're on the West Coast, and it's like what I want to do, they're not interested in, which is okay. But it's just like, and I've done that before. I've been through the lull in between Cataclysm, Wrath King and Cataclysm. So it's just like I've done that before. I've done older content before.
Well, see, I
and I don't want to keep going and doing that. That's not fun to me now.
Right, and for me, part of what's making me feel burned out, I don't think I have quite the severe case as Medi does. I never, from day one, did not like the Timeless Isle. Just didn't like it. And thought it was nothing but grinding, which I still think that. Went out there today just because it's pretty easy to Valor cap if you go out there now. That's the only reason I go out there. I never did enjoy the Timeless Isle. I thought it was a bunch of tedium. Still think that. And it kind of made me like, that's what I'm supposed to be, air quotes, right? That's what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm not raiding, so I can get ready and help improve my character for raid. And I don't like it. I think it's unfun. And that is what kind of got me burned out. And I know a lot of people bitch about Cataclysm, but there was something about that expansion that at the end of it, I was having fun playing. I had fun in LFR, for crying out loud, in Cataclysm, because it was alt friendly, and I think that was part of it. I really don't want to try to level another tune. I've got 390s, 490s, something like. I got 490s. I got a paladin that's like 88 or 89. I don't really want to level him to 90. I just don't want to, because I don't want to see that content again. And that's the burnout for me. It's like I log in for raid because I enjoy the team that I'm raiding with. It's a good group of people. We have a lot of fun. To use a euphemism, we bust each other's balls all the time. It's fun. It's a good time. But the content itself, I'm just worn out on it. So that's why I've lately been playing more, because I'm trying to get the Valor Cap so I can upgrade my gear to help overcome this hurdle in raid. Because of these people that I raid with. I know, and I think we lost Q. We did lose Q. Q's back.
Sorry.
That's fine. But yeah, I mean, that's the reason lately that I've been Valor Capping, so I can increase my gear, overcome this hurdle in raid, and then I'll probably keep running as long as FERT's running. I'll probably keep going. They may hang it up after, we go, get a couple kills on Garrosh. They may hang it up for the summer. I don't know. I'm not sure what the decision there is. And if they do that, I'm probably going to play even less than I have been lately. I don't know. It's just, to me, there's something, and I can't put my finger on it, but there was something at this point in Cataclysm where I wasn't bored with the content. And in this expansion I am. I don't know if it's because it's not as alt friendly and I'm not able to see the content from a different angle and feel like I'm contributing.
I'm a big believer that the content of this expansion is the worst content, not because they did a bad job from game design or anything like that, but because I don't think the story is very compelling to us as players. I think we have finally gotten as far away from the core of the Warcraft franchise that it's just not very intriguing. I think Wrath was, for a lot of people, Wrath content was really the best content.
I would agree.
It's a generalization, right? We don't know that everyone thinks that, but I think for the majority of people, I think they feel Wrath is the best. But I think it's because it had the best villain. It had the one we were most connected to. We had seen Arthas. We had played Arthas. We saw his rise to be the Lich King. Like I think we were very invested, whether you were Alliance or Horde, it didn't matter. You were very vested and invested in the storyline of killing the Lich King. He was a villain we could all get behind to get rid of. Like, is Garrosh really, and all of the bosses that have been in the Pandaren storyline, is this really villain we really care about killing? Like, Garrosh feels to me a bit more like a petulant child or a bully that you just... Garrosh is the kind of kid that if I came across him as an adult now, knowing now, if I knew then what I know now, I would take him out behind the school and beat the ever-loving shit out of him. Whip it out, piss all over it, and then say, go ahead, screw with my friends again, see what happens then. Like, he's a bully, and he just needs to be bullied. But he's not a villain. When you look at Arthas and you look at him as the Lich King, you're meant to be terrified of him, and you should be terrified of him because you can't kick his backside in. And the reality is we couldn't, right? We died trying to beat him, and it took Ford Ring resurrecting all of us to beat him, right? And when you look at Deathwing is kind of the same thing. He was just this unstoppable monstrosity. And I don't think Cataclysm was the greatest content, but I think that Cataclysm, again, the storyline, it reshaped the way Azeroth looked. It gave us something new to look at. It gave us new versions of old content that we were very familiar with. I just think Pandaria just falls flat on its face. I think we aren't connected to the story. I think it's pretty. I think it's nice. I think the graphics work is great. I think some of the storyline is very rich. it's a good side adventure, but it doesn't really capture me. And I think that's a big part of again, I think when you find guilds aren't as connected to one another, so people aren't as connected to the social aspect, maybe starts to break away in some cases. Then you take content that just isn't really engaging for people. I think these things all kind of layer on top of themselves to make a cake that doesn't really stand very well in itself, and it kind of topples, and this piece is sliding and crumbs coming off, and the candles won't stay lit because they're leaning over, and it's like you're just looking at it going, look, great effort, awesome effort, but it isn't really pretty.
Well, the one, and what you're saying probably holds true for you, and to a certain degree probably holds true for me too. I don't want to speak for Medi, but there's plenty of people out there who raid and kill all these bosses and everything, and they have no idea why they're going in. They don't know about the lore. They don't care.
Exactly.
And they never have, and they're still burned out. I mean, so I just think I don't know what it is. I'm not a game designer, as much as I might be kind of a wannabe, but there's something missing. And I think from a WoW, just looking at it from WoW and historically, we didn't get any new 5-mans, and anyway, after the launch of this expansion, we didn't get any new 5-mans, which one help to support what Quori's saying, help progress the story and maybe get you a little bit more invested in it. And two, it's just something else to do. Like, I think for me personally, scenarios missed the mark. Partly because I was tanking when we got scenarios, and tanks were unwanted. So
well, you don't need one.
Right, and they were flat out unwanted, and I'm like, but I'm a tank, and I want to run scenarios too. And so were healers. Healers were not wanted. And I think it missed the mark. It's great for the DPS folks, but I think they maybe need to focus more on adding. I think I've said this before. I think they need to give us fewer 5-mans at the launch of Warlords than they're planning on, and give us a couple sprinkled throughout, added on later. It's just my take, just to give us some content here and there. I don't know, but I think part of it is, like Medi said, my life's changed, my priorities changed. Like, I used to play every day, and I don't anymore. And when I log in, it's I'm logging into Raid, but lately I've been logging in because I'm trying to upgrade my gear and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not doing that because for any other reason other than I'm trying to respect the time of the other people who've committed to being there. Where I feel like if I don't do that, then I'm not respecting the time that they've set aside to be here, because I'm not doing as much as I possibly can to help overcome this hurdle that we're having in Raid. So but at the same time, it feels like a chore.
Yeah.
To kind of go back to earlier commentary. So, and anybody from Furt Raid listening, I'm not saying you guys are a chore. I'm saying that what we put on ourselves as people who are trying to raid.
The game feels like a chore, not the social aspect of hanging out with those people feels.
The raid itself doesn't feel like a chore. Running through the raid content doesn't feel like a chore, but the stuff that I feel like I need to do, I need with air quotes, right? Like Valor capping so I can upgrade my gear. That feels like a chore. And it kind of always has. It's just gotten to the point now where before it'd be like, oh, I've got this thing I have to do that I quote unquote have to do, and I could knock it out real quick. But now I have less time to play. So it, I think, makes it feel more like a chore. So I don't know. It's just, I've never been here before.
You're also hitting. You're talking about something that wasn't in the game 5 years ago, right? There weren't this many layers within the gear,
right?
Right. And so I was, content hasn't changed. Yes, I understand seeing Garrosh Hellscream in the room is different than seeing Ragnaros in the room in Cataclysm or seeing Ragnaros in the room in Vanilla.
Right.
I get that has changed. But look, it's always been the same thing. It's stand out, stay out of the poo. Don't stand in the bad that you're not supposed to stand in.
Use your cooldowns at the right time. Yada yada yada. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then play smart. Right. Stay alive. Being alive is more important than topping the DPS meter. That sort of thing. The principles and practices of playing the game have not changed. And the reality is that there's only so many ways you can throw at a player base what ads are, right? Ads are ads are ads. It doesn't matter whether it's a couple of Nubrian spiders coming into the room or it's waves of skeletons coming at us, or it's orc warriors pouring into the room on wolves, or a giant wheel spinning across the room. It doesn't matter. The reality is ads are ads are ads. That stuff doesn't really change. But when you turn around and make it so that the amount of health comparative to the amount of DPS or the crit rate that is happening for the particular classes at that point based on the stat weights and how it pans out, you make it that, well, if you don't upgrade your gear, there's these 2 extra little levels, you're never going to be able to overcome this content, like with gateway bosses in the game.
Right.
Like the way they do it. That's a new layer that they've put into the game to help slow down the vodka, premonition, dream paragon, all those blood legion and those types of guys. But on the flip side, it takes the other 98% of the player base, which is the rest of us, and makes it harder for us to feel like we're progressing within the game.
Yeah, and I actually think, and we've used the word chore a lot, I'm hoping with the changes that they're making to gear, like they're getting rid of transmog, right? I'm 99% sure they're also getting rid of upgrades. Hopefully that system never, ever, ever comes back. I think, or I'm hoping that they take that same approach that they're taking with garrisons of not making it feel like a chore. Hopefully they apply that to gearing too. I hope. I mean, I understand that there's part of the grind. That's part they've said all along, and I agree with them that the random drop and the what's the word, the slot machine of gear, that's part of what makes it fun and appealing for players. I get that because they're right. Mm-hmm. They're dead right. Nobody wants to admit it. The people who are like, oh well, I'll never get this drop. This LFR sucks. This loot system, I never get it. If they got the drop that they needed every time, they would be bored. That you don't get that. Did I get it? That sense of excitement right before the loot window pops up. Did you get it? Did you win that roll or whatever? That makes it fun.
Somebody said to me once, a guildmate who's also a coworker in real life, he said he doesn't hate the fact when he goes into like LFR or Flex, he doesn't hate the fact that he doesn't get a particular item. What he hates is that he's seen it where nobody gets anything. That's a fair criticism to say, what's the point in going into an LFR or a Flex when the 10 people or 11 or 12, whatever happened to be, no one got anything with the way the current model is, as opposed to if you go into 10-man mode, at least 2 items will drop. Now, my counter to him was, but what if you can't use the 2 things? What if it's 2 priest items that drop, priest healing items, and you don't have any priests in, who are healers in the raid? Those 2 items get DE'd, and what was the point? And he's like, yeah, but that happens far and few between them. And my point to him was, I'm willing to bet the situations when nobody gets anything in Flex mode or LFR mode, that nobody gets a thing, is pretty far and few between too.
I've seen it a couple times in Flex.
I'm sure it can happen. I think it's probably far and few between.
But see, you got to take the good with the bad, where that can happen where nobody gets anything. When we killed Siegecrafter, was it Siegecrafter, where like 4 of us all got the same? I think it's Siegecrafter. Like 6 or 8 of us out of I think there's 14 of us got loot,
which you're not going to get if you were doing
exactly.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's going to go the other way too.
So yeah, I mean, it sucks where you can go in there and like you can have 18 people in Flex and nobody gets anything, everybody get gold. But then you can have the other side of it too, where if you win in on 10-man, you're going to get those 2 items that drop, and that's it. You'll get 2 items consistently, but it's not necessarily right. So it's a trade-off. Those moments suck, but then the other moments are like rock on. Like 8 people just got something they can use. So, not necessarily all 8 of them are going to be able to use that item. It might not be an upgrade, but still, it's possible. But yeah, I don't know. I just go back to, I think there's something, like I said, I can't put my finger on it. There's just something missing that Cataclysm had. And maybe it was, it's a different group of people that I'm playing with now. Maybe that's it. Maybe it was, granted, I was tanking in Cataclysm. I'm not tanking now. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But it's just, there's something, and honestly, when the comment earlier about how at BlizzCon we thought Mist was closer to being ready than apparently that it is, they said that. Because they were talking about, like, I was basing it off my
Not Myths, you mean Warlords.
Yeah, Warlords, sorry. I was basing it off of, well, and I kind of confused myself what I was getting ready to say. The playtest for Mists of Pandaria at BlizzCon versus the playtest for Warlords, it was way more finished. The Warlords playtest was way more finished than what Mists was. And then they said, I think it was Ghostcrawler, who granted he's not there anymore, but he said on Twitter, I think, that feels like they're further along in development at the time of announcement of Warlords than it did with Mists. And we're still waiting. And I think comments like that, I think, just kind of fuel people who are they just want the content and they want to consume the content as fast as possible, which is the worst thing you can do if you're an MMO player, is just plow through the content as fast as you can.
I've always said an MMO is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
But
the majority of the player base,
they want to treat it.
Right. The majority of the player base, or at least the vocal part of the player base, plows through the content as fast as they can, and then they want more. And frankly, that's the biggest reason why they delay LFR launching when a new tier comes out, is because the people who is LFR only, or LFR is their end game. If all of the LFR was available at the stretch, at the launch, then they're going to be done with the content in a week. Maybe 2. And I think that's the biggest reason that it doesn't come out at when the tier opens up. But I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Like I said, I just can't put my finger on it. There was something about Cataclysm that had me wanting to log in every day. And for now, right now, I just want to log in for raid. Now, granted, when Warlords comes out, I'm going to be logging in every day and leveling up, and I'm, that kind of stuff. But after I'm leveled up and I'm ready to go raiding, and I'm only getting upgrades from raid, I got a feeling I'm going to be logging into raid, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. We don't know enough. We don't know enough. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't hate them really, but I'm not a huge fan of the WoW Insider articles. I think they need to be about 80% of the length that they currently are. But I read one about what do we know about Warlords of Draenor that Ann Stickney wrote, and she nailed it, because a lot of people were bitching, and she's like, we don't really know anything. What are you complaining about? She didn't really ask that, but it was like, everybody's talking about, well, we need strong female characters, and we need this and we need that in Warlords, and they're not doing this with Agra. And then, what do we know? We know that we're going to have garrisons. We know we're going back to Draenor before it exploded. And Garrosh is there. That's about all we know. And too many people are, they think they know what's going on, and we don't know what's going on. So, anyway, we're coming up on our time, unless you guys had any more to talk about Burnout, because I think we're going to start repeating ourselves if we...
Fuck the police.
I blame Seraphis.
I'm okay with that.
I always blame Seraphis. It's just easy. It's just easier that way.
He's all like yelling at me and yelling at everybody to do their MP3s. I'm like, really? Han.
All he does is take. That's what he is a taker.
So, anyway, that's the first time we've had like a big... Because we used to do that every week, where we'd have a discussion topic and we'd go for 20 minutes just talking about that topic. And we haven't done that in a while, but...
it's, all I'm going to say is that you're right, and Medi's right, and I'm right. And people can hear it, I'm sure, when they listen to this, whether the people listening to the stream or people who listen to it on the recording. They're going to hear it in our voices, and it's going to emulate the same frustrations they're feeling, where they're like, there's a certain level of why.
Right.
Why am I feeling burnt out on this? Because I never felt burnt out on it before. And that I think that's it's not so much that you're feeling it, it's that you're just like, it's trying to understand where it's coming from, what the source is, and then find a fix for it. Whether it be raiding old content, doing achievements, or taking a break from the game, or maybe it's switching to do PvP instead, or play a different game, play Hearthstone, maybe that'll do it, or play some, if you're lucky to be in the alpha for Heroes of the Storm, playing that for a little while, or Diablo, or whatever it is. It's people, you're trying to figure out why you're feeling this way and what's my solution for it. And this is where we kind of turn and look at Blizzard and say, what are you doing? Fix this.
Right, and I don't think it's fair necessarily to put the blame on Blizzard to say it's their fault that we're burned out, because we do it to ourselves. We don't have to play as much as we do. But I mean, at the same time, we are paying them a monthly subscription fee for a game that it's kind of a sticky situation.
If I turn around and go to Starbucks every day and I'm getting the cups of coffee, and every time I drink a cup of coffee, it's kind of turning my stomach and I'm feeling like all of the acids in there, and it's just making my stomach very upset. I don't stop, even though I know full well I could just stop and not have a cup of coffee and see if I get better as a result. Instead, what I do is I look at the barista at Starbucks and say, I've been drinking coffee the past week, and it's been really hurting my stomach lately. What are you doing differently?
Right.
How are you making this coffee? Right.
That's a good analogy.
We blame the person who's giving it to us. And
I love that coffee analogy.
Well, and not so much blame them and to say it's all your fault, but we look at them and say, here's the problem. I don't feel well. I'm drinking your coffee. You gave me the coffee. How are you going to fix this? And the barista's looking at you going, well, I'm not making the coffee any different than I make it any other day. And if it's upsetting your stomach, just stop drinking the coffee. This is, I knew we weren't really going to talk about it, but some of the brouhaha that's been going on these past couple of weeks with Blizzard and some of the things that were said by some of the people that work at Blizzard and people getting flipping out on them and all that. I always come back and challenge those people who flip out on Blizzard and say, if you don't like it, how about you unsubscribe?
I fully agree with you.
And they flip out on me and they get mad at me and they're saying, well, you want to ignore my cause. You're saying there's no place for me. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that ultimately Blizzard is a business. This goes back to what I kind of started with way back at the beginning of this. Their business. You cannot look to them to solve problems or make you happy. What you can do, though, if you really want to shape what they're doing, is answer them with your pocketbook, with your wallet. If you don't like the product they're putting out, if it turns your stomach, if you don't like the coffee, stop drinking the coffee. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Unsubscribe. If they turn around and see 100,000 people unsubscribe, they may look and say, you know what? Too bad, so sad. Good riddance. We don't care about you. But if they see 4 million people unsubscribe, they'd probably stop and take notice and go, wait a minute. We should probably look at our game and fix something because something might not be right. If Starbucks coffee is making that many people sick, if it was just you, the problem is probably just you. If it's making half of their consumer base not feel well, there's probably something wrong with the coffee and the way they're making it, and they'll probably notice when people stop showing up and buying the coffee.
Yep.
To me, that's a far easier, far more simple way to really determine, am I the problem or is somebody else the problem? Can I fix this, or is this really up to them to fix? And, honestly, what's the worst that's going to happen if you stop playing WoW for a little while, or if you play another game, or you did something else within the game as opposed to raiding content or PvPing all the time, whatever it happens to be? What's the worst that's going to happen?
No. And to take your example and give a different analogy that applies to a career, if you have a problem with your manager and then you change jobs and you have a problem with your manager and then you change jobs and you have a problem with your manager, the problem isn't your manager. So it kind of applies to WoW or Blizzard, But
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean the coffee analogy is awesome. That's I never would have thought of that. Most people when they go to the forums and whatnot, they want to talk about buying a car, which is a horrible analogy to playing a video game. But the coffee one, that's a good one because
it's a product, right? We're buying a big giant cup of coffee and we consume it. And some of us go and buy the coffee every single day. Some of us only do it once a week. We say, you know what? I only have so much money. Right? So I'm going to go buy one latte. It's like $5 for a damn latte, but I'm going to buy one a week. So I log in once a week or twice a week, and that's what I can afford. And that's what I purchase. Some people, they're like, hey, I can do this all day.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy, though.
I want coffee now.
So anyway, we probably ought to wrap up the show. Go ahead and call it a week. I got to render and upload, so Medi, why don't you tell people how to get a hold? Actually, Q, why don't you tell people how to get a hold of you, and then we'll have Medi do the stuff for our show.
You can find me on Twitter at all times at QuoriWow. You can find my blog at quori.wordpress.com when I do write sparingly. I used to write far more frequently and just not enough time anymore. You can find me every week on AzerothPirateRadio.com with my co-host Seraphis. You can find us at AzerothPirateRadio.com.
And for those of you familiar with Seraphis from the Sundering, if you're not familiar with Azeroth Pirate Radio, it's a slightly different Seraphis.
It is. So the Sundering, like Epic podcast, is adult-based content, and Azeroth Pirate Radio is family-friendly. So if you are someone who likes to listen to WoW podcasts and you happen to have kids around often and you're worried about them hearing, you can feel free to play Azeroth Pirate Radio. We do not curse or swear or talk about anything inappropriate. We make it very family-friendly.
I think the worst I've heard on your show, and I'm guessing, is maybe a hell. Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
We do. And I'm an old military guy, so believe me, I can curse like there's no tomorrow. But
yeah, but I've experienced that at
BlizzCon. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
My daughter who's
scared
behind me can attest to my ability to yell, scream, and she's nodding her head. She hears me as a coach. And actually, it's funny. I'm as a coach, a soccer coach, I am the antithesis of yelling and screaming. I never, ever put a kid down. I never degrade a kid's.
No, because that's a teaching moment. If you put him down, you just lost that moment.
Yeah, I never do that. It's always about positive reinforcement, never about negative reinforcement, ever, ever, ever.
But
she just went, mm-hmm.
Well, Q, thanks for joining us.
What do I always say when I'm yelling at the soccer field? What do I say? Why am I yelling?
So we can hear you.
That's it. Just so you guys can hear me.
Doesn't seem like that at home.
Do you get the number of that bus that she just 300, dude?
Yeah, that's fine. No.
Anyway, thanks for joining us this week. I think you for the burnout conversation, you actually had a really good analogy that I think it really added to the conversation. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Medi, why don't you tell people how to get a hold of us, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. And if you like us, leave a review or a thumbs up. If you're listening via download, you can join our live chat at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays at epicpodcast.com/live, which I still need to fix. Epic Podcast is a member of Catalyst Gaming Media. Be sure to check out podcasts, YouTubers, bloggers, webcomics, and more at catalystgamingmedia.com. Also, be sure to check out the forums on Catalyst's site and participate in the growing community there, or Seraphis will yell at you for not doing an MP3. You can go to our website at epicpodcast.com. You can email us with any questions, comments, ideas, or death threats at epicpodcast@gmail.com. You can check out our YouTube channel on youtube.com/theepicpodcast. You can check out Wow Mardian's channel at WowMardian on YouTube. On Twitter, you can check us out on epic_podcast. I almost stumbled there at the end. At Lignar, at WowMardian, and at Metacakes, and we need to consolidate this a little bit more.
Okay. And just for those of you interested, the YouTube channel, I finally today got the last of the recordings of the marathon up, so all of it should be on the YouTube channel now. So there's a little bit missing where we had some dead space that we edited out, but.
And you can listen to me through my headset.
I even put it in the comments about where they need to go to the time, or what timestamp they need to go to on that one, so they can witness that without having to watch the whole Black Temple run. So anyway, I guess that is it for this week. So until next time, have fun a while, y'all.
Bye-bye.